Okay, I'd like to know if any of yesterday's students can remember the list for Band 7 task achievement, because these are the things that really we're going to be checking for. So, Dr. Sadath, what can you remember?
Yeah, I remember that task achievement, there should be a clear format, and there should be ideas should be clearly defined and supported by the examples, and there should be clear progression throughout.
Sorry,
And
sorry, Dr. Sadath. So we have the format.
Yeah.
So we have the format should be clear, and we have ideas should be supported with reasons.
Yeah.
And they should also be supported with examples. Anything else you can remember, Dr. Sadath, from
clear
the list?
progression throughout the essay.
Sorry?
There should be clear projection throughout the essay.
There should be a clear position throughout the essay. So this is another point. So this means our opinion or the opinions of other people should be very clearly presented throughout the essay. Anything else? Dr. Saif, what can you remember? So we had the format, we have supported ideas, and we have a clear position throughout. What else can you remember?
Conclusion should be present, yeah.
Yeah, we should have a conclusion, but is it just any conclusion? What's special about the conclusion?
Not repetitive.
Yeah, it can't be repetitive. So we can't be repeating just what we've written in the introduction. So we don't want to write anything that is repetitive, okay? Anything else? We have a couple of more ideas. What else should we do? Ankit, are you there?
The paragraphs equally
Yeah, they should be developed equally. Both should, the ideas should be supported by the reasons, and they should be developed equally.
Right. So we should try to support our ideas in the body paragraphs equally. So if we have two supporting ideas, two reasons for our idea, opinion, or main idea in body paragraph 1, we should try to do the same for body paragraph 2. If we have two examples for body paragraph 1, we should do the same for body paragraph 2 as well. So we should try and balance the body paragraphs, balance the development of our ideas. Anything else you guys can remember? Okay, let's take a look at the list. So we have used the correct format. So the correct format, we mean we want to avoid informal things, maybe like phrasal verbs, informal idioms. We want to avoid contractions. We want to avoid anything that isn't a feature of an essay. Some things like asking questions. So sometimes candidates like to ask the reader a lot of questions, and that's really not the format for an essay. It's more or less the format for an article. So in an article, we like to have a conversation with the reader. But in an essay, we are more informing than asking them questions and engaging them. Okay, then we have, this is something very important, and none of you mentioned it, which is addresses all parts of the task. So everything that you're asked to do and asked to talk about, you actually cover. Presents opinions consistently. Now this, if you do not do this, you will not just get a band 6 for task achievement, but you will also, you get a band 6 for coherence and cohesion. So this is one of those buy one get one free offers. So you get a 6 for task achievement, and you also get a 6 for coherence and cohesion. And this is one I believe, is one of the main reasons why people get 6.5, because they get 2 6s and they get 2 7s, and that makes it impossible, to break past that 6.5 barrier. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about this one today. We did some exercises yesterday. We're going to do a few quick exercises today as well, and then we'll move on to some essays and take a look at them and see, what's right and what's not. So, presented opinions consistently throughout the essay, developed main ideas with supporting sentences and examples. So, basically, when we're saying supporting here sentences, and when they mention it in the band descriptors, we're talking about reasons for our ideas, reasons for our opinions or the opinions of others. So, if you think that smoking should be banned in public places, why? It should be banned because it's bad for people's health, because, etc., etc. We need to give reasons for, for that. Okay, so we need to have main reasons, and we need to provide proof for them too. Okay, developed ideas equally. So here we want to develop our ideas in an equal manner. And we want to finish off with a clear conclusion that isn't repetitive whatsoever. Okay, now here we have an exercise. I'll give you a couple of minutes. I want you to take a look at these 3. This is the thesis statement. So this is the opinion in the introduction. And this is the main idea 1. So this is one idea in one body paragraph. And this is the idea in the second body paragraph, and this is the conclusion. So in order for us to get a band 7 in TA and CC, we need to make sure that nothing whatsoever, in the thesis statement and the main ideas in the body paragraphs and the conclusion are contradictory in any way. So let's take a look at the thesis statement, main idea 1, main idea 2, and the conclusion, and let's see if it's all logically flowing or not. I'll give you a couple of minutes and you tell me what you think. Okay, everyone. You will notice that you have in the left corner, is it the left corner? You have a microphone, you have mute and unmute and so on. So if you want to answer, you can unmute your microphone, you can answer, and then mute it again, just so that you don't make noise and interrupt the lesson. Okay, let me direct the question at different people. So I have a Sarah here. Sarah, do you find anything contradictory about these ideas?
Yes, I find thesis statement and conclusion big contradictory to each other, because in our thesis statement we are just saying that we are agree that children should learn language in primary school, and in conclusion we are saying a different thing about then we are talking about the benefits and the outcomes which we can have after learning language in primary school.
Okay.
So I guess these are two different things.
Okay. Anyone else want to add? Anyone want to add to what Sarah has just said?
Yeah, the conclusion states that from the conclusion I'm getting a meaning that I have compared both advantages, the benefits, and the negatives, and then I'm saying that benefits have outweighed the negatives. But it is not the case. So in the introduction, I have just mentioned that I totally agree. So I'll be stating two ideas that will prove my point. I'm not talking about the other side.
Okay. Okay. So let me just go through it with you together. And Keith brought up some good points. I'm going to further extend upon them. And Sarah as well. So I totally agree. Okay. So you have to be careful. If you use the word totally agree with something or totally disagree with something, there is absolutely no room for anything that opposes that. This is a very strong position. It doesn't leave place for anything else. So if you totally agree or you totally disagree, that's it. You need to be 100% going with that idea. Okay, so you cannot change your idea halfway or change your idea within the conclusion. I totally agree. That children should be taught a second language from the start of primary school. So this is a very strong opinion here. Number one, why? It's easier for children to learn languages at a young age. Fantastic. Okay, so here we have something that seems to go along with the thesis statement. They're both going in the same direction. No problem yet. Main idea two, children will find it easy to find jobs later on in life because they'll become bilingual. This seems like it's something positive, and it seems like it's something that's going parallel with the thesis statement. Then I have the conclusion. The benefits of teaching children another language as soon as they enter school outweigh the negatives. Now, I have two problems, as Ankit mentioned. Problem number one, we have negatives. So why are we totally agreeing that this is a good thing, and then we're saying that they have negatives? So we have some kind of, contradiction here. Now we have another issue as well, which is outweigh the negatives. So the positives outweigh the negatives. So also it kind of assumes here that we have compared, we have taken a look at the negatives. Now, one thing that's very important that everyone remembers here is that conclusions are not the place for introducing new ideas. Okay, we do not introduce anything in the introduction that we have not developed in the body paragraph. If we do so, there might be confusion as to whether this is a conclusion or it is another body paragraph, and that will create another problem in itself, which is it might be considered that you haven't presented a conclusion. And this is especially true when students do not use a linker like in conclusion. So I always recommend a linker like in conclusion. Especially I like that, there's no need to be creative. There's no need to reinvent the wheel or come up with anything fancy. In conclusion will do the job. Okay, let's take a look. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we have the same thing here again. So I have ideas, I have a thesis statement, I have my main idea 1, main idea 2, and I have a conclusion. Now I need to make sure that these things are all going well together. Give you a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, and you tell me what you think. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So let me direct the question at somebody. Who I have here? Who do I have? Safe. Dr. Safe. Dr. Safe. What do you
Yes,
think? What's your opinion?
I think the first paragraph is better to the opinion in thesis statement, but the main idea within second paragraph, it's contradict the thesis statement.
Okay. So everything else is flowing, yeah? So we have no problem whatsoever between the thesis and main idea one and the conclusion. So you think everything's flowing except for the second main idea? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, contradiction.
Okay.
I think the conclusion also has issues.
You have issues with the conclusion.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
more means extra.
Sorry?
Conclusion doesn't have any problem.
More listen means extra listen.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Sadaf, respond.
Yeah, I think that essay, what is the opinion in the introduction, that is matching in the first paragraph, body paragraph 1, and conclusion is matching to the introduction. But I think the second main idea is contradictory. I mean, it is not, there is not a clear progression in the essay. Main ideas are contradictory. In BP1 is matching to the introduction and conclusion, but body paragraph 2 has contradictory idea.
Okay, so we're having issues with body paragraph, the main idea and body paragraph. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at this together and let's decide, you know, if things are flowing or if they aren't flowing. Okay, so I believe that having extra PE lessons, we know PE, like physical exercise, at school is beneficial for students' education. Okay, so here we have two things. I'm just going to put everyone on mute just because I have too much noise. If you all need to speak, it's fine. You can just go to the microphone and click unmute and you can answer. All right. But other than that, I'm going to put everyone on mute. Okay. So only unmute the microphone when you need to say something. Okay. So we have, I believe that having extra PE lessons at school is beneficial for students' education. Okay. So here we have sports are good for the brain. So the brain is good for education, yeah? So I could say that this is flowing. Up until here, we have no contradiction whatsoever. We're going well. Let's go on to 2. Having extra PE lessons will take the time needed for other subjects. So this is an issue because this is affecting education in possibly a negative way. Conclusion, having more PE lessons can improve students' educational process. So everything is going fine except for main idea number 2. Okay, now let's say, okay, let's just say that we don't want to change this idea and we want to keep it. Okay, now what I want is I want you to think of a solution for this problem. So we have the second body paragraph has a main idea that has something contradictory within it. And I just want to solve it. I don't want to change it. I just want to solve it. So I'll give you a couple of minutes just to think about something. And you guys tell me what you think we could do. Okay, let me ask you guys. Who do I have? I have Tamer here. Tamer, do you have any idea what we could do to fix this problem here without changing the main idea? Okay, I'll ask somebody else. I have Adnan here. Adnan, can you think of anything that we could do to fix this problem? No. I'm going to move on to Misbah. Misbah, how can we solve this problem?
I think the author should refute the second idea, so it kind of it will get balanced then.
Okay.
And in thesis, he should say that, or he should mention that there are some negatives as well, but they could be sorted out.
I want to leave it as it is. I want to leave it as it is. I just want to fix this without changing the thesis statement, without changing anything. Let's keep this main idea, but let's play with it. What can we do? And Keith, any genius ideas here?
And I thought of just changing the thesis statement in which I'll be mentioning that like while I believe sports are good for the development of the brain, I also believe that extra physical education lessons can take valuable time from students, something like that.
Thank you. That is nice, but we are changing it. I was just playing with you guys to see if you can come up with any ideas. Now, remember that we can also present the ideas of other people. So we could say some might argue that having extra PE lessons will take the time needed for other subjects, blah, 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 supporting ideas, examples, full stop. However, I do not believe, for example, that there is any proof to support this. To support that, that it will take up time for other subjects. You could give an example that some countries, they have, lots of PE lessons and they still have time, for other subjects and so on. So there's lots of stuff that we could do. We could play with the thesis statement. We could play with the main idea, but the most important thing is that our essay flows from top to bottom and there are no contradictory ideas. There are no contradictions whatsoever within it. I'm going to add one more. Let's see what we have here. Okay, thesis, job satisfaction should be the main goal when choosing a job and not getting a large salary. 1, job satisfaction leads to happiness. 2, a high-paying job that one is not happy with might lead to stress and depression. Being happy with one's job should be the primary goal when choosing work. Okay, what do you think of this? Do the ideas go together? Are they contradictory? I'll give you just a couple of minutes just to look at them and you tell me what you think. Okay, guys, what do you think? What do you think? So, who do we have? We have Sarah. Sarah, what do you think? Any contradictions? Can you find anything? All go well?
No, I don't think there is any contradiction. I think every point goes with another, and it's well developed, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Anyone, think different to Sarah? What do you think? Tamer, Misbah? Anyone have any problem, contradiction, or anything that they'd like to highlight?
I just feel that maybe main idea 1 and 2 overlap a bit. In the first idea also we are talking about it leads to happiness, and then we are just talking like a high paying job that is then one is not happy with might lead to stress and depression. It kind of overlaps, and also maybe we can improve the conclusion to include to just summarize both the main ideas and then give our opinion.
Yeah, there might not be 100%, but I think here what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at one job that you're satisfied with is going to make you happy. The second one, we're going to take a look at a job maybe that you're not so happy with, and maybe it does pay, but at the same time you're not happy with. So we're going to talk about like sadness and stuff like that. So we're highlighting the importance here of job satisfaction being the main goal. It should be the main goal because you'll be happy if you have a job that you like. You'll be sad if you get a job that you do not like. So we're taking a look at both sides, both extremes. To me, they seem to flow nicely. Yeah, maybe not the best ideas. We took a look at this yesterday. Let's take a look at another one. I'll give you just a couple of minutes to read really quickly and find me what you think, if there are any kind of like serious contradictions here between these ideas. Okay, guys, if you're IELTS candidates, then you definitely should have finished that by now. I'm going to stop that. If you think you can spot the contradictions, unmute your mic and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think this essay, the writer has not justified it, because in both in body paragraph 1, he has stated the idea that robots are good because they reduce the need for manual labor. He wrote this in positive sense, but in the second paragraph, he said that there are negative of using they are creating unemployment for many people. So there are the
Okay, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there. Just 1 second. That was fantastic. Okay, so you spotted something within body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. And this is what I talked about, you guys, and Keith and Dr. Saif and Misbah and Eula. can you remember the first day when I told you, you know, if you're going to be looking at the positives and negatives of something, look at something different. Don't choose the same thing and mention it as positive and then choose the same thing and mention it as negative, because it's going to seem contradictory. So in one body paragraph, this person is saying that robots will take the jobs of lots of people and this is a good thing. And in the second body paragraph, they're talking about this being a negative thing. So this is very confusing and this is very contradictory in itself. So you have the choice to choose your ideas. Why choose ideas that are contradictory? And I know the answer to that. The answer to that is because you're not brainstorming, you're not presenting main ideas, putting them in front of you before you're writing, you're just writing and writing and writing. Even by the time you get to body paragraph 2, you've even forgotten what you're going to write in what you wrote in body paragraph number 1. So this is one of the main reasons. Was it Misbah or Dr. Sadaf? It was Dr. Sadaf, yeah? Yeah, can you continue? Who was it? I think it was Dr. Sadaf, yeah? Go on.
Yeah.
What else?
Yep, and there is a contradiction in conclusion as well, because here they said that they are needed for better future prospect, but it is nothing mentioned for better future prospect in the body paragraph. So I think there is a contradiction as well.
I see something a lot more serious than that. I'm going to give the mic to somebody else. I'll let somebody else unmute themselves and tell me what they think is more serious than future prospects.
For me, I see that he gave in his opinion at the introduction one side opinion, agree opinion, and in the conclusion he go to the balanced opinion.
Yeah, that is the issue. That is the issue. So here we have. Let me just read the introduction. In my opinion, robots are indeed beneficial for future development in order to cater the needs of growing population and their demands. So this is beneficial, okay, and it's catering for the needs of the growing populations and their demands. Yeah. By the way, whenever you add something like that, it becomes necessary that you develop it. So whenever you give yourself that kind of responsibility, you know, you have to, you know, continue and go all the way through. Okay. And here we have, admittedly, there are drawbacks. Where did the drawbacks come from? Where were the drawbacks when the person was writing the introduction? You see, the writer didn't even think about the drawbacks when they were writing the introduction. They just thought about answering the question however they knew, and towards the end they started to think of ideas. It's not the correct way of writing. First, we plan our ideas, we put our ideas down, and we make sure that our ideas are not contradictory. And then, you know, once we know that we have ideas that don't contradict each other, then we start to write, not the other way around. Okay, so that's how, you know, we should be writing. People ask me questions, they're like, how do you do this? How do you notice these contradictions or whatever? I notice them because I am zooming in on automatically. I'm just zooming in on the thesis statement. I'm taking a look at topic sentences and the conclusion just to make sure that everything goes well together. When somebody is writing, they start to think about the grammar, they start to think about the vocabulary and stuff like that, and their mind just gets totally overloaded with so many different things that they even forget what they wrote in the introduction, and they start to write all kinds of ideas. Okay, and that's the main reason why people, you know, one of the main reasons why people are really stuck at that band 6.5, because they have stuff that, you know, makes getting a 7, you know, impossible. Here we have the last lesson. I can't remember. It was somebody, I can't remember his name. When he joined, I think, for the lesson, and he said something like, "What does this mean?" He said this. Overall progression. He said, what does overall progression mean? And what does clear throughout mean? He said, what's the difference between that? So then we can start writing band 7, coherence and cohesion. So, the point that I was just clarifying was presents a clear position throughout the response. A clear position is you have one opinion from top to bottom, and you do not contradict yourself. And this is the same here. There is a clear progression throughout. Now, when we're talking about coherence and cohesion, coherence means that something is logical and understandable. Now, in one body paragraph, if you're telling me you have one idea, and in the second body paragraph you're telling me you have another idea, it's not logical. It does not flow. It does not. There's no progression of ideas, because you have one idea and then boom, you're changing to another idea, and this is problematic. Okay, so there is no progression. So maybe I can say there is an overall progression. So I could say overall, we know what the word overall means. It kind of means in general. So we could say there is some kind of general progression throughout the essay, but it's not from top to bottom logical. Okay, so most people end up getting a 6 for coherence and cohesion and a 6 for task achievement because of this one problem. They are not planning their essay, they are just writing. They put their pen on the piece of paper and they start to think and write as they are. And the problem is, if you make you choose a position and you write the first body paragraph, and then in the second body paragraph you cannot support the position that you chose, what are you going to do? I've given so many mock exams to students, and I have watched them write, and they have a pen in their hand and they're just looking at their paper and thinking and thinking and thinking. Why are they thinking? They're halfway. They've chosen a position and they do not know how to complete the essay, and now they're thinking of a way out. And what they usually do is they just go off topic or they contradict themselves, because they think it's better if I write 250 words and I finish off better than I don't. Okay, so that's that. That's one point. I'm going to move on to the essays. We're probably going to be running a little bit late today. I'm going to try and look at 2, hopefully, and the rest I will take a look at tomorrow, God willing. For the guys who are visiting today, I hope you guys are benefiting from today's lesson. It's great having all you guys here. Please, guys, stay till the end of the lesson. I'm going to have a Q&A. I might be a little bit later today than usual. Usually I start my quick Q&A 7:05, 7:10, but I might start the Q&A at 7:15. So if you have any questions related to writing, you're all welcome to ask them. Let me move on to the essays. Haha. Let me make that larger just so that we can get that in the screen. Okay, so some people claim that not enough waste from homes is recycled. They say that the only way to increase recycling is for governments to make it a legal requirement. To what extent do you think laws are needed to make people recycle more of their waste? Okay. Now, this is the background statement here. This is just introducing the topic, giving us some background information about the topic. This question says, to what extent do you think? Now, with Cambridge, usually the questions are, to what extent do you agree or disagree? But sometimes they can give you a statement. So this question here is separate from the background statement. So we need to be sure that we are actually answering this question. And this is just giving us some background information about the topic. We need to be clear that this is the point. To what extent do you think laws are needed? Okay, so what are we going to say? Are laws needed? Do we need laws in order to make people recycle more of their waste? Yes or no? Okay. With these type of questions, these opinion questions, we have three main routes, ways that we could go. We could say that we totally agree that laws are needed. We could say that we totally disagree that laws are needed. Or we could go a third way, and we could partially agree. We could say, okay, laws are needed, but maybe they have some negatives. Okay, laws are needed, but maybe there are other things that we can do to reduce waste. Yeah, so this is what we call a partial agreement. Okay, a lot of questions are asked. Do I need to look at my opinion and the opposing opinion? Is that a requirement? And so on and so on. Now, these questions are very, very common. And the answer to that is it really depends on the band mark that you want. If you want a band 7, there is no need to talk about different sides of the argument. I believe blah, blah, blah. Some other people believe that it's not a requirement. And then the second body part, however, I believe it is a requirement. There's no need to cover two sides. Okay, two different opinions if you are just aiming for a band 7. Now, can you remember just a few minutes ago I was talking about contradictions? Now, I've noticed people who have weaker kind of English, who have some grammatical mistakes and some lexical mistakes and stuff like that, when they try to take on a complicated idea, like they are partially agreeing or they're looking at two sides of the argument or whatever, they kind of make mistakes and they make statements and, they contradict themselves somehow. And they end up getting, they end up with, they end up getting a band 6 for task achievement and for coherence and cohesion, because they've taken an approach that is way too complicated for them to answer. So the people who are struggling, it's like 6, 6, 6, 6.5, 6.5. And I know some of you take the exam so many times. If you're one of those people who are struggling, take the simplest approach that you need to take in order to get the mark. Okay. I always make an exception for people who have really strong writing skills, who have the ability to do so. I always recommend that they do take a little bit of a more complicated approach if they're aiming for an 8 or above. Okay, that's that. I'm going to move on to this essay. Okay, guys. So we have, it's argued by some that not much of household waste is recycled. And the only option to make people recycle more waste is to make it a legal obligation. I like it. Now, here what this student has done is he has rephrased stuff. So some people claim, it is argued by some, that not enough of the waste, that not much of the household waste is recycled. And what else do they say or believe? The only option to increase recycling, to make people recycle more waste, is to make it a legal. Here we have make it a legal requirement. Here we have make it a legal obligation. That is nice. Now, for someone with the ability that this writer has, I think this writer has a lot of ability. So I would say play with it, play with the structure a little bit, and just like totally reorganize the sentence. Okay. So he could, you know, totally restructure things, right? So at least like restructure one half. So it's argued by some that not much of household waste is recycled. And maybe instead of the only option, and recycling more waste. And the only option to make people recycle. Let's see what we have, what we could do here. Let's try and, I'm just going to try and restructure this just so that we have a different order of words there, yeah. Okay, okay. So we could say, it's argued by some that not much household waste is recycled and making it a legal obligation is the only option. So here we've just played with the structure a little bit. And that's really what we want to do. You know, this is not for everybody. This is not for everybody. I don't tell everybody to play with the, you know, with the structure, you know, as much as you know possible, but for the people who really have that strong control of a language, who are native or, you know, who's semi-native or very, very proficient, you know, they want to do as much with it as they can. Okay, let me move on. But it was very nice. I really liked it, the way he played with the words and changed stuff. That was great. Anyway, although I accept that a recycling law may help in this regard. Okay, here this is the position. Okay, so this is a very, very sensitive part of the essay itself. Although I accept that a recycling law may help in this regard. So I have it may help. So it possibly may help, and of course it may not help. Yeah, so the choice of words we have to be very careful of when we're writing the thesis statement. We do not want any contradictions whatsoever. So it may help. I do not believe that it is the only method to increase recycling of waste from homes. So here he says that, you know, it may help. So here we I don't know, when we say may, it means it possibly may help. Okay, so I'm not sure of the choice of this word. Now I'm going to move on and just see, you know. And here he says that it can be equally effective in increasing. Okay, and here he's saying that it can be equally effective. So I think, you know, we want to be careful the words that we're choosing in the introduction, in, you know, the body paragraphs and in the conclusion, and try and make things, you know, flow, you know, in a more logical manner. And so let me move on. So a good method to increase. So here we're saying that this is good. So we're saying that this may help, and then we're saying that it's not the only one, and then we're saying something is equally effective. And here we're saying that it's a good method. So here it may help, here it's a good method, and here they're equally effective. So I kind of, you know, I'm not expecting all examiners to be as fussy as me, but I try to, you know, I try to bring as much attention as I can to any possible problems, I put like the worst case scenario in front of candidates just so that they become aware of them. A good method to increase the amount of household waste which is recycled is to make it a legal requirement. So here it may, and here it's a good method. If residents do not adhere to the law framed by government, I'm not happy with the word framed. Okay, maybe we could, you know, passed by the government. Maybe we pass a law, or we establish a law or put a law into to practice or something like that. I just didn't like the word framed. The honest truth, I even, went into the dictionary just to check, if it was suitable or not. It does have, the meaning that he wanted, but I just think that, there are more better options, and, word choice is a part of IELTS as well. They should be punished as per new law. Various types of punishment, such as fines, social services, or probably prison sentences for repeated offenders, can be given to the people who break the law. This will probably make inhabitants follow recycling rules and regulations in order to avoid any kind of punishment. Okay. Now, I always recommend this. I recommend introducing the main idea. So what is the main idea? That, that introducing a law is a good method, is effective. But what I would like to do is I would like to start off the body paragraph by, boom, giving a reason. Okay, straight away attacking with a reason why. Okay. I found that this is just like, if residents do not adhere to law by government, they should be punished per law, various types of punishment, blah, 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 blah. I'm waiting for the reason. They should be. Okay, tell me why they should be. Why should they be? Why? So here he's saying at the end of the idea, it's like, this will probably make inhabitants follow recycling rules and regulations in order to avoid any kind of punishment. So if we started off after that with, doing so will encourage people to avoid, types of punishments, and then we could possibly present the different types of punishment. For example, fines and this and that, and we could finish off with something with a strong example. Here we have to illustrate this method of legal obligation for recycling has proved effective in New Zealand, where the amount of recycled household waste has increased after recycling law was framed again. Therefore, a law for recycling will certainly be effective, as it will create a sense of fear among people. Okay, not 100% happy with that, but I'm going to move on. However, I believe educating people about the burning issue of increasing waste can be equally effective. I like that, burning issue. It's kind of idiomatic and it's nice. I like it. We're trying to get that, what's that stuff? What do we say? We said 7. LR, Lexical Resource, uses less common lexical items with some awareness of style and collocation. So, as I said, many of the ex-examiners kind of hint in the direction of less common lexical items and stuff like that being idiomatic phrases, of course, that are not informal. So we're not going to be saying stuff like, oh, this is my cup of tea or whatever. We don't want to be using kind of informal stuff. If you're looking to pick up idioms and idiomatic phrases and idiomatic language and so on and so on, I would, look at Band 9 essays like from Simon and Ryan and IELTS Advantage and that kind of stuff, and pick up the language that these natives are using, because really, those people who are looking at your papers in Cambridge, or, I think nowadays everything's sent to the UK, they really want to feel that this person who is writing is somebody like them, who uses the English like them. So when they're reading the text, it just feels natural for them. It's like, wow, this sounds natural. It's burning desire and God knows what, on the horizons, and, these kind of idiomatic phrases. So pick up idiomatic phrases from Band 9 essays from well-known natives, and not from students and from other teachers and so on. Okay, that's a good source of language. And this guy, my student here, Ankit, he seems to have a very, very strong control over the English language and a very natural choice of words. Blah, 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 can be equally effective in increasing the amount of household waste being recycled. People can be educated about the ill effects that increasing the amount of litter can cause on Earth. This would increase the awareness among inhabitants, and they might consequently start recycling more waste. Educating citizens using educational methods such as campaigns and videos have already been quite successful in some countries. Nationwide, so here we're giving the example here, nationwide Clean India campaign organized by the government of India, for example, has received a good response and has been quite successful. Hence, educating people is another important measure which can be taken to increase the recycling of waste from homes. Nice. Okay, notice what this guy has done. Now, some students, they ask me, they say, shall I use one supporting idea or two supporting ideas? You know, do I need two in order to get a 7? I would only use 2. Well, it really depends on you. What we need for a band 7 is a developed idea. We need a really well-developed idea. Even though this student only uses one supporting idea, it seems to be very well developed. What we have the supporting idea, then we have the example, and then we have a concluding sentence. So it seems like it's a very well developed idea, even though it's only one. For the people who do not have the ability to really develop one idea, I always say use 2. Now, some people, even with 2 supporting ideas and 2 examples, they still do not hit the word count. If this is you, then finishing off each body paragraph with a concluding sentence will help you to hit the word count, and it will help you to develop your idea further. Definitely. This is way in the 7.5 bands range. You know, everything is, you know, the task achievement. If it wasn't for the few things that I mentioned, I would definitely say it's an 8 for task achievement and coherence and cohesion. But because of that, I just didn't feel 100%. You know, the flow 100%. But I think, you know, maximum probably for task achievement and coherence and cohesion would be 7. Possibly for lexical resource, you'll be looking at an 8 there. And if the examiner isn't very strict, you might get an 8 for GRA as well, which would put him in the 7.5 band range. And Keith, how long did this take you? Be honest, please, as usual.
42 to 43 minutes.
43. Okay, that's good. That's good. I think with the letter, I don't think you'll be taking 20 minutes anyway. So I think you should be fine. You should be fine. Okay. I hope you write something like this. Is it tomorrow? Tomorrow's the 30th, yeah?
Yeah.
Tomorrow's your exam. Okay. I hope you do something like this tomorrow, and you know it would be nice. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent stuff. I'm moving on to another essay here. Some people. It's true that not adequate amount of household wastes are wastes. It should be waste is uncountable, by the way. So here we should say that waste is recycled. So this is an uncountable noun there. So I'm just going to cross that out. Okay. Maybe instead of not adequate, it could be that an inadequate, maybe. Okay, so then we could change it into the negative. And I didn't want to change the spelling because I really want you to become aware of the spelling mistakes that you're making, because I think they're way too much for band 7. You're looking at a band 6 with all of these spelling mistakes, unless they are typos. I'm not sure if they are typos or not. Okay, Ankit's leaving. Wishing him all the best for tomorrow's exam. He needs to get some sleep, and it's late over there. So see you, Ankit, and hopefully we hear some good news from you. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay, I'm just going to move on. So it's true that not an inadequate. Did something a bit silly. See? That not an inadequate amount of household waste is recycled. In my opinion, capital E, of course, I agree with this view. Okay, so he agrees with this view, which says that in introducing, I'm going to stop there. I think a couple of lessons ago we talked about non-defining relative clauses, yeah? So how many views do we have here presented? We only have one. Okay, so we only have one here. We're not really defining which view that we are talking about. Is it this view or is it that view, or are there many views? So here we're just using a non-defining relative clause to give additional information. So I agree with the view, comma, which says that which says that introducing a law, a legal obligation, legal with an E, of course, could help to improve recycling, but I believe that there are other measures which governments could take to tackle such an issue, because it's in the singular form here, such an issue. Okay, so here we have authorities can enhance the process of recycling by setting a new legalization. Okay, maybe I don't understand why I didn't see this earlier, but anyway. So here we have authorities can enhance the process by we could say something like, making it a legal requirement or something like that. Making recycling a legal requirement. Okay. So I'm not sure what is meant here by setting a new legalization or something like that. Anyway, they can force people to separate their wastes. We have an issue with waste here because it should be in the uncountable, yeah? So waste into different bins. Okay. And anyone, okay, so anyone here, anyone that does not, should be does not, yeah? Anyone, because this is a singular one, yeah, just one here. So anyone that anyone that does not adhere to this law should be punished. Penalties, capital P, would range. It should be would range. Okay. Penalties would range from minor fines to community services and even prison sentences for repetitive spelling mistake offenders. By following such strategy, recycling might become more efficient. For example, a country like Japan, Japan has, so we can't have two subjects for the verb has. So Japan has introduced such, maybe such laws. Okay, such laws. and the result is a country with a clean environment. Okay, so we're having quite a lot of issues today with this one. Okay, so what do we have? How many ideas do we have here? Do we have examples? Do we have everything we need? Okay, so they can force people to separate their waste and stuff like that. They can give minor fines and prison sentences. Okay, by following such a strategy. Yeah, now if you notice that here he's just writing about what the government can do. The government can do this, the government could do that, and stuff like that. Okay. But do we really have a reason? Do we have a reason why the government should do that? Why might it just become more efficient? By following such a strategy, it might become more efficient. Why? Yeah. I need a reason. So if you're telling me that the government should make it a legal requirement, they should do this and that and the other and whatever, you should tell us. Like, you should tell us why. Like, why should they do that? Okay, so we really need reasons. I need a strong reason that supports why government should give fines and put people in jail and so on and so on.
Yeah,
so,
this they can deter people from.
Yeah, that's what I had with Ankit. Ankit, he came up with it. It just was a bit too late when he mentioned it. I was just not happy with how late it came in the body paragraph. It came like really late, and I just thought, this will probably make inhabitants follow recycling rules in order to avoid any kind of punishment. So he did kind of give me a reason. It was just, I felt it was a bit too late in the body paragraph. For me, it's just like, give me the main reason, support it, clarify it, explain it, whatever. But here I didn't feel that you had anything. By the way, it was kind of like, I don't know if this is like, I don't know what to call it, because I didn't feel it was like really a supporting idea here. It was just kind of explaining, the situation. So I'm going to say that it wasn't well supported. I'm going to move on to body paragraph number 2 and see what's happening here. And however, there are measures other than simply introducing a law to increase recycling. Firstly, governments could educate people about recycling and the negative consequences of waste on nature. And then automatically we're going for an example. For example, children in school could be taught TA, about recycling, and homeowners could be informed about the environmental impact of household waste. It should be waste here. Anyway, I think, I think we could have said that, once the people know what, we could have given a reason that once people know, for example, that how they are harming and impacting the world in a negative way, and maybe future generations or whatever, they might want to stop. They might want to stop wasting, and because they've become like aware, they become educated and aware about what they're doing. Okay, so I think here you're kind of lacking the reasons, for your your position. Okay, secondly, money could be spent by governments on facilities that improve recycling and recycling facilities that improve recycle and system. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what is meant here. I'm not going to waste time on it. So I'm not sure exactly the phrase. We're going to move on. So here we know that the government should spend money on facilities. Maybe we could say what these facilities could do in order for us to take this position, that there are other things other than introducing laws and so on. For instance, they can support scientists to invent machines which can separate wastes. Not sure whether separated correctly or not at home. So there's some spelling mistake here that is, interfering with understanding. Yeah, I'm just going to go to here. I'm just going to go to Lexical Resource. Let me hide the video here for 1 second, just so that I can hide video pan. Okay, fantastic. So here I have LR for band 6. Make some spelling errors, okay, and a word formation, but they do not impede communication. So for a band 6, if you make a mistake, it doesn't affect the understanding. You can get a band 6. If you have grammatical mistakes, but they do not affect understanding, you can get a band 6. Make some errors in grammar and punctuation, but they rarely reduce communication. Okay, so here, you need to be careful, if you're going to make like grammatical mistakes and lexical mistakes and stuff, if they affect communication, you won't even be able to get a band 6 for LR and GRA. Okay, and here in this essay, I kind of had quite a few grammatical issues, and they were affecting my ability to understand. Okay, so that's something that I'd like to make you aware of, and be careful. I highlighted all the spelling mistakes just to make you aware of how many you are making within like one task. Okay, in conclusion, household waste is an increasing problem, and I believe that making recycling a legal requirement. You have, I believe that, making, educating, and so on. So we're going to use the same one, yeah? So making recycling a legal requirement, educating people about recycling and negative consequences of household waste, and investing. So we have making, educating, investing in recycling facilities. All these are measures that governments can take to increase recycling. That's my son Abdurrahman. Goodbye, Abdurrahman. Okay, so that is the second one. I'm going to stop there. As for Misbah and Dr. Sadaf, I'm going to leave yours until tomorrow. I'm going to open up a Q&A session. You can ask any question related to IELTS writing, and hopefully I will answer you. If you do not have a mic or whatever, you can type the question in the chat, and hopefully I will answer it. So, Dr. Saif, any questions?
No, at the moment, no. Yeah.
Yeah. Just one point to add about your essay, which is, I would recommend that you do something like Dr. Ankit, which is end each body paragraph with a concluding sentence. The reason being, this essay, by the way, was only 247 words, which means you're still 3 words away from the word count, and you had 2, so this is an issue. This is an issue. I don't know. Also, one thing that I didn't bring into you didn't really have a supporting idea, but if we were going to count it, it would be 1. And here you had 2 supporting ideas, even though they weren't really that strong or that focused. So try to balance, but in addition to balancing, you need to add something to both of these body paragraphs. We need to see you at least in the 270 to 300 range every single essay. That's what we need to write 270, 300 every single essay. So add a concluding sentence and make sure your reasons are strong, just so that you get the word count and you do not get penalized for task achievement. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I had a question. Question. Okay. Yes, Muhammad, either tell me your question or type it, please. Muhammad Umar, you have a question. Can you either type it? I have sometimes a problem with extending my idea and add more than one idea on one body paragraph. Okay, you can have two ideas in the body paragraph. It could be, firstly, and you give one reason, and then secondly, and you give your second reason. That is fine. You can have two supporting ideas, and I recommend two supporting ideas in a body paragraph. This way, your answer will seem a lot more developed. It will be supported with reasons instead of just one reason, and I think it will definitely help you get a band 7. I'm not sure about band 7 plus, because band 7 plus, really you're looking at like native level of English and writing kind of skills, which isn't that easy. It is possible, but it's not that easy. So I would just aim for a band 7, especially if you've done the exam many times and not been able to. So keep it as simple as possible. 2 supporting ideas per body paragraph plus 2 examples. Make sure for every supporting idea you give an example, or you give one example that clarifies 2 supporting ideas. Okay. Muhammad, type yes if you're okay with that. Right. In addition to that, there are some questions that will ask you for like 4 ideas. For example, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? What are the causes? What are the solutions? So if the question is specifically asking you for advantages, disadvantages, causes, solutions, you will need to write 2 in each body paragraph. Maybe cause, solution, or cause, solution, but you will have 2 ideas in each of the body paragraphs. 2 ideas, 2 examples in one body paragraph, yes. If you're aiming for a band 7, I would do that, unless you're writing in the style like the person who I showed you their essay, the first essay. It was very well developed with just one supporting idea. I think that is the exception. If you're going to write and really extend and support and concluding sentence and so on and so on, I'm fine with one supporting idea. If you have no ability to extend and to write like a good example and a lengthy example, clarification and concluding sentence, then you will just definitely need 2 supporting ideas and 2 examples. Questions? Okay, you can type them, or you can unmute yourself and write and say them.